There are millions of people in the UK who keep fish as pets, in home aquariums and garden ponds alike. Fish are one of the most commonly kept pets in the country, and right now there is a campaign backed by the Scottish Government's own advisory commission to make most of those fish illegal. I'm going to show you why that proposal is built on ideology, not science, why it threatens the livelihoods of thousands of people in the industry, and why taking aquariums away from people who rely on them for their mental health is genuinely dangerous. My name is Harris Bard for Pond Life Aquatics. Welcome to the Science Series. Today's video is a little different. It's not a pure explainer, it's an argument. But it's an argument backed at every step by peer-reviewed literature, because that's the standard we hold ourselves to on this channel. So let's get into it. What is actually being proposed in Scotland? In 2015, the Scottish Government announced it would review the trade and importation of exotic animals for the pet trade. That review was handed to the Scottish Animal Welfare Commission, the SAWC, and it has been running in various stages ever since. In November 2022, the SAWC published its final report with two headline recommendations. First, that a positive list of species deemed suitable for keeping as pets be introduced in Scotland. Second, that the importation of wild-caught animals for the pet trade be banned. More recently, in 2025, a coalition of the SSPCA, One Kind, and the Born Free Foundation launched a campaign called Don't Pet Me, which was given a platform in the Scottish Parliament. That campaign explicitly pushes for a permitted list, meaning only the animals on the list are legal. Everything else is banned by default. If you keep tropical fish, if you sell tropical fish, you need to understand that this campaign explicitly includes fish in its definition of exotic pets. OATA has confirmed this in writings to MSPs. Let me be precise about what we're talking about. This is not banning lions and tigers. This is a proposal that, if implemented badly, can make your discus, your tetras, your koi illegal to buy and sell in Scotland. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the two regulatory frameworks on the table. They are fundamentally, philosophically different. The negative list, or exclusion list, is the system the UK currently uses. The logic is, you can keep any animal unless it appears on a list of prohibited species in England, Scotland, and Wales. The principal tool is the Dangerous Wild Animals Act 1976, which specifies animals, big cats, primates, venomous snakes, and alligators that require a license or are outright prohibited. Everything not on the list is by default permitted. This is a reactive system. It responds to problems after they emerge. The positive list flips this entirely. You can only keep an animal if it appears on an approved list. Anything not on the list is banned by default. The burden of proof shifts from prove this is harmful to prove this is safe. This is where the pro-positive list campaigners invoke the precautionary principle. If there is insufficient data on whether a species can be safely kept, it is assumed unsuitable until proven otherwise. That sounds reasonable on the surface. But here's the problem. There are over 30,000 described species of fish currently known to science. Of those, thousands are kept in home aquaria. The assessment burden required to evaluate each one against welfare, public health, conservation, and ecological criteria is colossal. And in the absence of that assessment, the precautionary principle doesn't protect fish. It bans them automatically by default. Several EU countries have already implemented positive lists. Belgium was the first, followed by the Netherlands, but critically, positive lists in Europe have overwhelmingly focused on mammals first. Servals, fennec foxes, primates. The aquarium trade has largely survived precisely because the science on captive bred ornamental fish is a fundamentally different conversation from the wild-caught mammal trade. The Scotland proposal, as championed by Born Free and One Kind, does not make that distinction clearly, and that imprecision is not accidental. The framing is deliberately misleading, and here's how. OATA's chief executive wrote to MSPs in September 2025, and I want to reference the core of that argument because it is scientifically correct. The Don't Pet Me report frames all exotic pets as wild animals, animals that by implication belong in the wild, but this collapses a critical biological and regulatory distinction. A guppy, Poecilia reticulata, is described as an exotic pet by this campaign, but that guppy was almost certainly captively bred, probably for dozens of generations. The commercial ornamental fish trade produces the overwhelming majority of its stock in controlled breeding facilities. That animal has never seen the wild. Calling it a wild animal is scientifically indefensible. Compare that to a serval or a primate, a genuinely wild-caught first-generation captive animal with complex behavioral needs that cannot be realistically met in a domestic setting. These are the cases the animal welfare organization's data actually supports. But by using exotic as a catch-all term, they collapse the distinction, and the aquarium trade gets caught in the net. There are significant animal welfare issues with Scottish fold cats. Their cartilage mutation causes chronic pain. There are welfare concerns with brachycephalic dog breeds who struggle to breathe. Is anyone proposing a positive list for cats and dogs? Of course not, because those industries are politically untouchable. The double standard is glaring, and OATA has publicly stated that the SAWC's literature review is not based on good science in its examination of pet fish specifically, and has written formally to the Cabinet Secretary to that effect. When scientific underpinning of a regulatory recommendation is being challenged by the leading trade body on methodological grounds, that should give any policymaker pause. Let me be direct about who we're talking about economically. OATA has stated that if these campaigns succeed, it would spell the end of the tropical fish keeping hobby because all aquarium species, including fish, corals, and invertebrates like shrimp and snails, are exotic under these definitions. Without fish, there's no need for tanks, filters, foods, medicines, or plants. That means aquatic retailers, wholesalers, importers, breeders, every link in the ornamental fish supply chain. In Scotland specifically, a business that has traded legally for years could find itself criminalised overnight. Not because anything it did causes harm, but because the species it sells hasn't made it onto an approved list that may take years to compile. And for what? To stop the keeping of servals by people who shouldn't have them. That problem doesn't require taking tetras off of shelves. Now, I want to make an argument that is almost entirely absent from this policy debate, and it should be central to it. What does it cost in real, measurable, physiological terms to remove aquariums from the lives of people who rely on them? In 2015, Cracknell and colleagues at the National Marine Aquarium, the University of Plymouth, and the University of Exeter assessed people's physical and mental responses to observing aquariums at varying levels of stock. The findings showed noticeable reductions in blood pressure and heart rate. In 2019, Clements and colleagues published a systematic review in PLOS ONE examining all available research on human interactions with fish in aquaria. The review consistently found that viewing live fish in an aquarium compared to empty tanks or tanks containing only plants enhances self-reported relaxation and mood and decreases anxiety. The same paper identifies cortisol, the body's primary stress biomarker, as a particularly sensitive measure, and notes that the direction of effect across studies is consistent. The mechanism is well understood. Observing a peaceful aquarium activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering blood pressure, slowing heart rate, and reducing cortisol production. A 2020 meta-analysis, 35 peer-reviewed articles found that exposure to blue space, environments near or in water, is associated with lower physiological distress and improved well-being, and that people who simply view videos of marine life experience measurable reductions in anxiety and heart rate. And beyond stress relief, research at Purdue University found that displaying aquarium tanks in Alzheimer's units resulted in patients being more relaxed, alert, and in better mood, with reductions in disruptive behavior and increases in patient weight. For individuals with ADHD, the rhythmic, organic movements within an aquarium allows the brain to enter a state of soft fascination, a beautiful term, a condition documented in attention restoration theory, which helps the mind recover from cognitive fatigue and lowers cortisol production. I want to be absolutely clear about what this means in policy terms. We are talking about removing from people, from Scottish fish keepers, from families with home tanks, from care homes that use aquariums therapeutically, a tool that peer-reviewed science has repeatedly demonstrates reduces cortisol, reduces blood pressure, reduces anxiety, and improves mood. We are proposing to do this not because fish keeping causes harm, but because the word exotic has been applied to a guppy. This is not a neutral regulatory exercise. There are human costs. They are physiological, they are measurable, and they are being completely ignored in this debate. I want to be unequivocal. I'm not against regulation. Wild-caught animal welfare is a genuine concern. Invasive species risk is a genuine concern. Poor husbandry of complex species is a genuine concern. These are real problems that deserve real solutions. But the solution is proportionate, evidence-based regulation, not a blanket positive list that uses the precautionary principle as a mechanism to default everything to banned. What good regulation looks like is species-specific risk assessment, strengthened licensing for all commercial sellers, enforcement of regulation that already exists, and genuine collaboration with the industry, because the hobbyist community drives the understanding of captive husbandry. You need us at the table, not in the dock. If you are a fish keeper in Scotland or anywhere in the UK, because what succeeds in Scotland has a habit of travelling south, you need to be engaged with this. Write to your MSP. Write to your MP. Show them the science on aquarium mental health. Show them that exotic pet framing is scientifically inaccurate when applied to captive bred ornamental fish. OATA has resources to help. I'll link them in the description along with the petition at change.org. The peer-reviewed literature does not support a blanket positive list for ornamental fish. The economic data does not support it. The mental health data actively argues against removing aquariums from people's lives. This is a hobby built on science, on conservation, on education. We have evidence on our side. Let's use it. I'm Harris Bard for Pond Life Aquatics. And that's all from me. And I hope you'll join me again next time for this Pond Life.